So this is my primary interview for the opinion editorial. Please state your name, when we met, and what our friendship is like.
So, hello, whoever this may be of concern. My name is Daniel Fernley. I am 18 years old, gonna turn 19 in a few months, like 4 months. I am in San Jose. Well, it's Arizona, correct?
Well, I'm in Arizona. You're in San Jose still.
Yeah. So, well, I'm originally from England, but we did move here like 3 years ago. So 3.5 years ago. Actually, yeah, almost 3.5 years ago. I met Matthew in halfway through sophomore year in high school. We met in engineering class after I transferred into his period, and we became friends through a mutual friend who introduced us to each other during class periods, and in around a month and a half, we became close friends.
Yeah. So first question. Have you had anything negative happen to you because of video games? If so, what, and could have it been prevented?
As a matter of fact, no. Well, not necessarily, no. There was some, like when I first started playing games when I was around 6th grade, when I first started actually playing games, there were periods where I would prioritize games over schoolwork, and that lasted for a while, but when I moved here, my work schedule and school eventually led me to understand, like, hey, I have schoolwork and I should focus on that more than playing Minecraft all day. So I started managing my time better, and I ended up helping a lot, actually. The more stress from school over me wanting to play games actually helped a lot with managing my own time and getting better grades, which was very nice.
If you could change the media's view on video games, how would you go about it?
That's an interesting question. When it comes to changing someone's view on games, I would opt for the excuse me. I would opt for the more educational route, because there have been examples over the past few years where you can use games as an educational tool. A very prime example of this would be Minecraft through its education edition, which it helps you, it teaches you about coding. It also has features for other subjects such as chemistry, where they implemented the entire periodic table into the game so that you can have young students start learning about chemicals and combining different chemicals to form different substances, and just about chemistry overall from the young age of around 6, 7, which I think is pretty impressive and is a very nice idea. And you could also teach them about architecture too, and I've heard about in where I live, where there's some middle schools that have architecture classes, and they use primarily Minecraft to teach kids about architecture.
So basically, if you were to change someone's viewpoint, you try going the educational route, not just like introduce them to FPS games, which might influence their.
Yes, I would go with the educational route. Yes.
What is your stand on the media's view on video games?
Oh boy. So I'm gonna keep this short because I have a lot to say about that, but. For the most part, I heavily disagree with what the media has to say about video games, because, I don't know, because I play games on a regular basis, and my opinion about games is, it's a nice hobby to have, it's something I can play with my friends, it helps me keep in contact with friends who are very far away from me.
Like me.
Like Matthew. And seeing how people connect games to mass shootings, which in my opinion is horrendous, and shouldn't be a thing, but they mostly just don't really understand how games can really help a person, but they, for the most part, just, in my opinion, it seems as if they're just pointing fingers at the first thing they can think of that may be used as a black sheep, or black goat, or however the saying goes, but it's black sheep.
Well, maybe they just don't like change. Could that be it?
Maybe so, or maybe they just don't want to deal with the large problem now, and would rather point the fingers at something else, rather than the real problem.
Tell me a time when someone challenged your viewpoint.
Not really. I've never had someone actually come up to me and challenge my view on how I see games in our society. It's mostly just seen articles online or news segments about people just blaming games on violence and teenagers, which I heavily disagree with.
Have you learned any skills from video games? If so, what skill and from what game?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I didn't really learn new skills from games, but it did help me improve. If that's okay to talk about, it did help me improve some aspects about myself. Like playing FPS games helped me improve my reaction time in a lot of ways. Helped me improve my eye detail, or just picking out small details in a larger whole, which
Rainbow.
looks cool. Not just Rainbow, but Rainbow 6. It helps with a lot of stuff in school as well. Minecraft helped me improve my creativity, which is something I'm going to need for my major since I'm going into game development, and you need a lot of creativity in that field.
One skill that I basically said when I was doing the rough draft, like a tiny rough draft of this, was being able to hone in on one specific voice, and I used the example from Destiny, how like especially like in Crown of Sorrow, when like you have multiple different things going on at once, like you have like 3 people talking at once, like talking about like moving the buff, I would say.
It also helped me improve multitasking, because like Matthew just said, there's some instances where me and him and 4 other of our friends were doing a big activity, and there is like 5 or 6 stuff going on around us, and it boils down to, okay, so you two go do that thing, and we will do this thing, and we need to constantly adapt to what's going on, and it constantly changes, and we have to keep going and going. And it usually lasts between around like 2 minutes to 10 minutes of just full-on multitasking with people around you. It helps build teamwork. And it's really nice because, like, side note, personal thing, like once you get it done, it's like, oh, we did this big thing together. That was really fun.
Yeah, it really is fun to do. Has anyone influenced your opinion on this topic? And if so, who?
Nope. This is all me. Although I do watch people play games. I do play games with my friends, but most of my views are stuff I developed myself.
What are some of the most important morals in your life?
Could you repeat that, please?
What are some of the most important morals in your life?
When it comes to my personal morals, I see as very important. I don't know actually, but I do have a strong sense of justice where people should be held accountable for what they did and what happened. I also have it may seem a bit weird to a lot of people, but I do have a strong sense of protectiveness to my friends. I have a very strong sense of protection to my friends. I also have a strong urge to help humanity as a whole with how we are currently spiraling down, with global warming being such a huge threat to our survival as a species, and how there are people that are helping towards it, but then there are some people that just completely deny it. It makes me feel anxious as to, like, how will we as a people be in a decade or two? How will we survive if we just keep going down this path without paying attention to what's going around us?
Okay then, do you think your morals influence your view on this topic? If so, how?
I don't think they do. I see them as being very separate from each other. They both develop differently.
I will admit, when you were talking about your morals, I was like, your morals are focused mainly on outside of gaming. Like, you love gaming, but you don't really put that as your main thing. You, like, try to focus on the outside as well.
Yeah, I try to focus on the bigger picture more.
Can you describe a time when your morals were tested?
Yeah, there was a time. There was a time when there was a person I knew, I won't disclose who it was for privacy's sake, that they were dabbling with at the time, kind of illegal substances, and I had full knowledge of what was going on, but I was like, you do you, buddy, I'm not gonna bother you or anything. We have a close relationship to each other, but I eventually found out that for the past 2 months they were lying to their parents about not doing anything illegal. And when I found out, it made me question, like, do I come clean and say everything about what's going on, because it's not, one, it's illegal, two, they were lying about it, two, it's not safe for them, or they just keep quiet and let them keep going, and maybe it lead into an even worse event if they just keep lying and eventually come found out. So I eventually did tell her parents, but it didn't make me feel good, because I do want people to be held accountable for what they're doing and that they should learn from their mistakes, but at the same time, there was someone I was very close to, and it was a very, very hard decision to make.
Thank you for that. Last question. Do you know why the media has this viewpoint? I think we already covered this basically when you talked about one of the earlier questions.
Yeah, it's mostly with the baby boomers. It's mostly the baby boomers. I'm not blaming the baby boomers for everything, but they are the majority of people who really don't want to see from what I can see, they don't really want to see the good side of gaming and would rather blame it for today's problems rather than changing their views and seeing, oh, this may be something much different that we are responsible for, and they would rather just have a scapegoat rather than face the trouble, rather than face the problems they caused and fixing them.
Thank you for taking your time out of the day to answer these questions, friendly.
No problem.
And this is my primary interview for the Opinion Editorial. This is Matthew Magelky.